together Oziv Zimratya. These words come from our Song at the Sea, which we will read next week in celebration of the power of song in the face of life and world-changing events. Oziv Zimratya, not only is Adonai my strength and might, but Oziv Zimratya, I sing my strength. Oziv Zimratya, let's sing together.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us and celebrating Shabbat with us as we welcome Shabbat in together. I am Rabbi Emily Hyatt. This is Cantor Liz Sachs. It's been a week, hasn't it? It's been a good week, I think, a week of hope, a week of peace, as we sometimes sing in our words of Shavua Tov. When we ended Havdalah last week, we wished for a week of peace and a week of joy and a week of hope. And I think for once we might have maybe gotten one, which is really nice. So let's all take a deep breath, because good week, bad week, hard week, sick week, healthy week, whatever your week might have been, lonely week, together week, week of tears or smiles or laughter or all of the above, as many of my weeks feel like they have been, just a roller coaster. We arrive at Shabbat and we breathe Shabbat in. We take those deep breaths. And as we prepare to light our Shabbat candles, we call on the words of a very brave young poet that we heard from this week, who said, "There is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it." And we always have this light to remind us the purpose of Shabbat as we bless these candles together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu bemitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner Shel Shabbat.
And as we welcome in that light and we see our sweet sanctuary, which we miss so much, we take a moment to make the space that we're in a sanctuary. Your office, your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom, wherever you may be, bravely on the patio with a heater, you do you. Let's make this a synagogue, a sanctuary, as we read together. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. Read with me. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
And so as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat with those sentiments in our hearts, let us sing. Let us sing our souls. Let us sing in preparation for the Shabbat of song coming next week. Let's get ready. Lechu neranena. Let us sing to God. Here we go. Lechu neranena. Yai lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. To hear God's voice. Lechu neranena. Yai lai yai lai lai. L'Adonai. Yai lai yai lai lai. L'Ariyah. Yai lai yai lai.
As we prepare to sing together the words of Lecha Dodi, every week we take a moment to think about what this means to us this week. Often Lecha Dodi, because it talks about that Shabbat bride, that image of the bride, is sung at Jewish weddings. It's a beautiful love song in a lot of ways, though it's between us and Shabbat, us and God, not between two loving partners. But it's a beautiful reminder that we do this world in partnership, that we don't do it alone, whether it's us and God, whether it's us and those neighbors and friends that are next to us, our colleagues, our families. It's a reminder that we await the arrival of Shabbat, of God, of holiness, of spirituality, of that which is going to move us toward creating a better world. So we join together in the words of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pei Shabbat, Nekabela. We remain standing or rise as we are able, physically or spiritually, for Baruch, our call to prayer.
This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava.
Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know
You may be seated. We chant together.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
It is an auspicious time to be singing Mi Chamocha. We are right at that section of the Torah. We're going to talk more about this, but our ancestors, the Israelites, are just about to leave leave Egypt and journey to Israel. They are on the parted shores of history almost. They will in a week they will be. And so as we sing these words, as we read these words and say these words tonight, they have extra meaning, both for our ancestors and our history and our legacy, and certainly today. And we will sing in a moment a tune to this song, a version of Mi Chamocha, of this prayer, that includes a Zulu folk melody that talks about walking in the light of God. What must it be like to have walked through that sea when the waters were parted? And did we walk with God? And do we now? And what does that mean? So pray together with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
We are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking. We are walking. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking in the light of God. Mi chamocha ba'elim adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh. Dora teilo, oh say Ella. Dora teilo, oh say Ella. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking.
Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Give us a place to rest. Adonai, our God, bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu va'al kol amo Yisrael va'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Eloheinu v'Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Gadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Halkol v'Zocher Chasdei Avod v'Imaon u'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer Moshiach u'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim U'Matir Hasurim U'Mekayem Emunat Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol halelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We take a moment now for the words that are not spoken out loud, for the prayers that are in our minds and in our hearts. And we come back together in just a moment with a prayer for peace. We arrive now at our Torah service, and we're actually going to hear the reading of the Torah first on this Shabbat. which is very exciting. So it is my pleasure to move right into it. We are in Parashat Bo in the book of Exodus. And just to give you like a 10-second intro to what is happening, we're at the end of the plagues. We're at the end of our time in Egypt. We are about to leave. It's the last night of our time in Egypt as slaves, and we're getting instructions from God about what to do when we leave and what to do after we leave. And so for our Torah reading this evening, I am so excited to introduce Jordan and Elise Sankel. We are very excited to celebrate Elise becoming bat mitzvah tomorrow morning. So they are going to say the blessing over our Torah reading tonight. We're so excited to honor them. For our Torah reader today, Steve Katz, a wonderful part of our Torah Corps, and translation by our wonderful board member, Amy Pell. So I'm going to turn it over to Jordan and Elise for the blessing before the Torah reading.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayikra Moshe l'chol ziknei Yisrael vayomer alehem mishchu ukachu lachem tzon l'mishpachotechem v'shachatu ha'pasach u'lakachtem agudat ezov u'tvaltem b'adam asher basaf v'higatem el hamashkof ve'el shetei hamezuzot min hadam asher basaf Ve'atem lo teitzu ish mipetach beito ad boker v'avar Adonai l'ngof et Mitzrayim v'ra et hadam al hamashkof ve'al shtei hamzuzot u'pasach Adonai al hapesach v'lo yitein hamashit lavo el batechem l'ngof u'shmartem et hadavar hazeh l'chok l'chol v'necha ad olam V'haya kitavahu el haaretz asher yitein Adonai lachem ka'asher diber u'shmartem et havada hazod v'haya ki yomru alechem b'nechem ma avda hazod lachem v'amartem zevat pesachu l'Adonai asher pasach al batei b'nei Yisrael b'Mitzrayim Benagfo et Mitzrayim et Beitanu Hitzil. Vayikoda am vayishtachavu vayilchu vayasu b'nei Yisrael kasher tziva Adonai et Moshe v'Aharon kenasu.
Moses then summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go pick out lambs for your families and slaughter the Passover offerings. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and apply some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel and to the 2 doorposts. None of you shall go outside the door of your house until morning, for the Eternal, when going through to smite the Egyptians, will see the blood on the lintel and the 2 doorposts, and the Eternal will pass over the door and not let the destroyer enter and smite your home. You shall observe this as an institution for all time, for you and for your descendants. And when you enter the land that the Eternal will give you as promised, you shall observe this rite. And when your children ask, 'What do you mean by this rite?' you shall say, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Eternal, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when smiting the Egyptians, but saved our houses.' Those assembled then bowed low in homage, and the Israelites went and did so, just as the Eternal had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu toret amet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai no chain HaTorah.
Thank you to everyone for those beautiful blessings and Torah reading and translation. It's such a pleasure to hear everyone's voices and see you. And we're very excited. Mazel tov to the St. Cal family. We're very excited to celebrate with Elise tomorrow. We take a moment in our Torah reading, in our service for the Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, to say the words of healing and also the names of those we know that need that extra blessing this week. As always, we will pause in between the verses so that you can add the names that you have in your hearts and minds to the list that we read as we say together the words of the Misha Berach. Today, we are praying for Zachary Hoffman, David Karner, David Lustig, Natalie Mosier, Jeff Cohn, David Goldenberg, Stuart Myers, Catherine Plus, Jean Silber, Scott Grant, Scott Englander, Stacy Hoffman, George Kadish, Ira Clare, Kristen Myers, Corey Franklin, Shanti Hazan, Robert Tucker, Jennifer Brynan, Lynn Pollitt, Lynn McLaughlin Cromar, Cynthia Friedland, Howard Rosenberg, Leonard Streer, Deborah Alenikoff, Michelle Zuckerman, Bobby Fuhrer, Alex Busnovetsky, Norman Francis, Shirley Barton, Louis Karsh, and Aaliyah Lasky. I invite you to add any other names, those in your hearts or in your minds. Type them in, say them out loud, think them as we join you in a prayer for healing for each of those loved ones that you are holding. And we say, Baruch Ata Adonai, Makor HaRefuah, blessed are you, Adonai, the source of all healing. So now we take some moments for words of Torah. And as I said before, we are in this Parashat Bo, and somebody asked me today, why don't we read the story of Passover during Passover? And it's a really good question. It would feel really appropriate if we did. And the story is long. It takes a lot of weeks to get through the entire story of slavery and Pharaoh and Moses and the plagues and the hardening of the heart, right? We go back and forth, and then we end tonight, this Shabbat is our last Shabbat in Egypt. And so we don't read it on the week that when Passover actually happens in the spring, because we're commanded to observe Passover in the spring, and because we couldn't fit it into 1 week. So here we are. It's our last night in Egypt. And the last thing that happens before the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn of the Egyptians, the last thing that happens is that we are given instructions as the Israelites, telling us what we're supposed to do now. Where are we going from here? And what are our instructions moving forward? And those instructions are fascinating and complicated and very specific. So here's what happens is that we know that the plague of the firstborn is coming, and that those houses of the Israelites are going to get passed over, that their firstborn will not be killed. And as we're in this process of hearing about this plague and moving forward, we're given instructions about celebrating Passover. On the 14th day of the month of Nisan, we celebrate this feast of the unleavened bread. And in that instruction, we're given instructions for the Passover sacrifice, the Korban Pesach. And we're told that we're supposed to eat of this sacrifice. It's a lamb. It's the same lamb, right? Remember, we take the blood of that lamb and we use it on our doors so that the firstborn of the Israelites are passed over. But the instructions about the Korban Pesach itself are fascinating. And here's what some of them are. It says, you shall eat that sacrifice the same night. You should eat it roasted over the fire with the unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. You do not eat any of it raw. You don't cook it with water, but you have to roast it, the entire thing, over the fire. You don't leave any of it over until morning. And you have to eat it looking nice. You have to be dressed. You have to have shoes on. You have to have your staff in your hand. Eat it quickly. It's a Passover offering to God. And then we get a couple more things that happen. The matzah is baked, right? That unleavened bread is baked, and we get more instructions. And then God says to Moses and Aaron, again, this is the law of the Passover offering. So we get more instructions. It shall be eaten in one house. Don't take it outside the house. Don't break a bone of it. It says, ve'etzem lo tishbaru vo. Don't break a bone of it. The whole community of Israel will offer it, and on that very day the Lord freed the Israelites from the land of Israel. So really interesting instructions that we're given about what we're supposed to do with this sacrifice. Put on your shoes, get your stuff, hold your staff, get your unleavened bread. Don't wait to bake it, but do stop to eat. It's our last night in Egypt. This is the culmination of 200 years of slavery. The Israelites are on the cusp of freedom. And God says, hurry, go now. You don't have much time. Don't even wait for the bread to rise. God says, eat it fast. God says, eat it with your packs ready. Eat it with your staff in your hand so that you can get up and go. But then God also says, do not break a bone. Do not leave over any meat. Take the time. Move efficiently, but don't rush. It's a weird set of instructions. The Israelites have been slaves for hundreds of years. They've got to want to shove this food in and get out of there. So what is God saying? God is saying, pace yourself. Take your time. Go slow. Be meticulous. Be careful. Don't rush. Don't go so fast that you fall and you trip and you mess up and you lose sight of the goal. But also God is saying, don't miss it. Don't miss the beauty of this moment. This is your last night in Egypt. The slaves, if we are thinking about it, probably weren't out grilling every night. This is a big deal for them. This is like their first taste of luxury. Don't break a bone. Don't eat it so fast that the bones crunch, that you get, right, that you miss the beauty of the experience. But of course, if we look a little deeper, the word etzem, bone, lo tishbaruvo, don't break the bone. Etzem also means what's inside, what's essential. Talk about the marrow of the matter, what's inside the bone, what gives us that strength. 3 times in the Torah, the words be'etzem hayom hazeh are used, and it means on that very day. On that very day. And it really means by virtue of what is the essential nature of this day. The first time it's used is in this portion when we talk about leaving Egypt. The second time is when we talk about the day that we bring a sacrifice. And the third, it talks about Yom Kippur, be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this very day, because this day is essential. And etzem, bone, what's inside, what's essential, is also the root of the word itzum, which means pinnacle or peak. And I can't help but think of the words that we talked about at the beginning of this service by Amanda Gorman at the inauguration, that National Youth Poet Laureate and the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history, who read the most fabulous words about the work we have in front of us. And what she said, a part of what she said, let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. Even as we hurt, we hoped. Even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. This is the promise to glade, the hill we climb. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. On this very day, on this very essential day, during this enormous week, at this critical time, on this very day, slow down. Don't break the bone. This is our first step toward freedom, toward building the society that we dream of. It was on this night, the night that the Israelites first ate the Passover Seder, that they baked their unleavened bread, they packed their belongings, they left Egypt, fearful of what was in front of them, but even more afraid to go back to what they were leaving behind. And in their fear, elation, terror, excitement, anxiety, they were reminded, do not break the bone. Slow down. Go one step at a time. And little did they know, they would run for that sea. They would cross in that moment of miracle. They would reach the far shore. The sea would come crashing back together, crushing their enemies, and they would dance and they would sing. And then they would wander and wonder. It would take 40 more years before they reached the promised land. Here we are at the base of the hill. We have just arrived at the first Shabbat of what feels like the future. We too are fearful of what is in front of us, but we are even more afraid to go back to what we're leaving behind. And in our fear and our anxiety and our excitement and our terror, there is also hope. We are eager for change. We're hungry for it. In fact, we're starving. So let's eat. Let's eat of this sacrifice, but don't break the bone. Go carefully. Walk slowly. Work hard. We can only make what lies ahead better than what we're leaving behind if we don't rush, if we take the time to think. What am I saying? How am I hurting? How am I helping? How can I be helping more? What can I be doing? How can we be growing? How can we be joining? In a moment, you are going to hear Cantor sax beautifully sing these words that President Biden also quoted. And he said, and she will sing, all we've been given by those who came before, the dream of a nation where freedom would endure, the work and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessings I received. Let me know in my heart, when my days are through, America, I gave my best to you. The climb up the hill is not going to be easy. We can only do it together, so don't break that bone. Do not waste the opportunity to climb to the peak. Don't miss the hard work and the beauty that's inside it. Don't miss the beauty of the work of repair and apology and forgiveness and kindness and building unity. We just got here. This is our first Shabbat at the bottom of the hill. And just like the Israelites are on the cusp of freedom, they've got 40 years of wandering in the desert before they get to the promised land. And yet, even on day one of the journey, they are reminded, don't break the bone, don't rush, don't miss it, go slow. We have to go slow as we rebuild. We have to take care of ourselves, of our friends, of our neighbors, of our precious democracy, of this nation, of our children, of our future. Shabbat Shalom.
All we've been given by those who came before, the dream of a nation where freedom would endure, the work and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessings I received. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Each generation, from the plains to distant shore, with the gifts that they were given, were determined to leave more. Battles fought together, acts of conscience fought alone. These are the seeds from which America has grown. Let them say of me, I was one who believed
our God and God of our ancestors. Bless this country and all who dwell within it. Help us to experience the blessings of our lives and circumstances, to be vigilant, compassionate, and brave. Strengthen us when we are afraid. Help us to channel our passion so that it motivates us to action. Help us to feel our fear so that we do not become numb. Help us to be generous with others so that we will raise each other up. Help us to be humble in our fear, knowing that as vulnerable as we feel, there are those at greater risk, and that it is our holy work to stand with them. Help us to taste the sweetness of liberty, to not take for granted the freedoms won in generations past or in recent days, to heal and nourish our democracy, that it may be like a tree planted by the water whose roots reach down to the stream. It need not fear drought when it comes. Its leaves are always green. Source of all life, guide our leaders with righteousness. Strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening, that they may use their influence and authority to speak truth and ask for justice. May all who dwell in this country share in its bounty, enjoy its freedoms, and be protected by its laws. May this nation use its power and its wealth to be a voice for justice, peace, and equality for all who dwell on earth. May we be strong and have courage to be bold in our action and deep in our compassion, to discern when we listen and when we act, to uproot bigotry, intolerance, misogyny, racism, discrimination, and violence in every form, to celebrate the many faces of God reflected in the wondrous diversity of humanity, to welcome the stranger and the immigrant, and to honor the gifts of those who seek refuge and possibility here as they have since before this nation was born. Let justice well up like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Amen.
For those who think they have nothing to share, who fear in their hearts there is no hero there, know that each quiet act of dignity is that which fortifies the soul of a nation that never ever dies. Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessings I receive. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, 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 America. I gave my best to you.
We rise as we are able, physically and spiritually, as we work our way up the mountain and continue with Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss and life and death. When we talk about all that has come before us, those generations that have made this world what it is so that we can continue to build it, we think of those who are no longer with us, those who did all of that work and who have given us their legacy. And so we are thinking tonight of those that we have lost in the last week, Sandra Myers and Sheila Zemmel. Those we have lost in the last 30 days, Eileen Goldstein, Jason Howe, Sharon Runyon, Milton Sherman, Helena Rosenbaum Silvers, Riva Rosenblum, and Beth Weisberg. And those for whom this Shabbat marks the Yortzeit, the anniversary of their passing, Ray Edelman, Corin Asher, Irene Avenbach, Ida Ballas, Harry Berkowitz, Phil M. Blocker, Carolyn Schreiberg Bascom, Sarah Kane, Jack Cohan, Ruth L. Cohen, Shirley Ann Cohen, Doris Fisher, Simon Frank, Norman Zander Fried, Joseph D. Friedland, Juliet Freyhan Friedman, Ada G. Friedman, William N. Frost, John Gale, Catherine Gale, Sylvan G. Glick, Gary Lee Goldberg, Gertrude Goldberg, Jenny Goodman, M. Ray Gottesfeld, Leslie A. Gross, Sophia W. Grousman, Minnie Shibko Harris, Bernard Hyman, Minnie W. Israelski, Rosalie Kipper Levitt, Leah Sheftel Kobe, Leonard Kurtz, Marco Leibovich, Anna P. Lichtenstein, Celia Meyer, Sam Michelle, Bella Mintz, Mary C. Morris, Walter W. Morris, Leo S. Moses, Robert S. Oberfelder, Fanny Payne, Mark A. Rolfe III, Jacob P. Rosenbaum, Joel Rosenblum, Sam Ross, Gertrude Russian, Joseph Saltzman, Abraham W. Seth, Richard Michael Schwader, Isidore D. Siegel, Erwin Harold Simon, Gussie Gerson Sondak, Herman Spire, Peter J. Strata, Boris H. Titel, Yetta A. Kramish Wax, Eugene J. Weisberg, Edgar Shirley Welty, and Anne Wygod. We add to that list 10 more of the precious souls from the city of Kolín in the former Czechoslovakia who perished in the Holocaust and for whom our finer chapel is dedicated. Karel Goldreich, Berta Goldreichova, Evgen Goldschmeid, Carolina Goldschmeidova, Ludwig Goliger, Hanna Goligrova, Ermina Goligrova, Dr. Victor Grossman, Karl Groinhunt, Carolina Groinhuntova. And with that, I invite you to add in, if you haven't already, anyone else that you are thinking of on this Shabbat, those that you are missing and mourning. Say them out loud, type them in, hold them in your hearts, and we hold them with you. If you're in a period of mourning, I invite you to rise as you are able, physically or spiritually, so that we can recognize you from afar. And we all now rise physically or spiritually and join together in the ancient words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgarash shevei rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Ose shalom, shalom imruma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
I hear Tova in the background.
Oh, yes.
Well, on
Just
that
be quiet
note,
right outside the door. Just so tough.
it's an appropriate place to be. As we conclude our service, let's talk about what's coming up. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat continues with Young Family Shabbat with Steve and Jill at 9 a.m. I'm assuming Jill will be there because I haven't seen Steve do it alone in months, but she doesn't have to. It's not her job. Torah study with Rabbi Black tomorrow at 10 a.m. Community service with Steve and Rabbi Black at 11. All of those things will be on the main page of our website, on channel 1 of our website, or on our main Facebook page. Additionally, Shveder Havdalah tomorrow, and our opportunity to say goodbye to Zahava and to wish her well. And so we will be dedicating Havdalah and talking to Zahava tomorrow during our Shveder Havdalah. So make sure you tune in for that. I actually don't know whether that will be coming from the Shveder page or the Emanuel page on Facebook, but you will see it on both. So you can tune in from either one. Also tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, like I said, we are celebrating Elise Senkel becoming bat mitzvah. We're so excited for all of the celebrations with the Senkel family. So join us there on our B'nai Mitzvah page or on the temple website, channel 2. A couple of reminders: all services are virtual through the window of your screen. Through the winter is what I meant to say. The building is closed. Temple is open. We're here for you. Reach out, care@emmanueldenver.org if you need to find the clergy learning with Rabbi Joe Black. The one and only is happening on Wednesdays at 12. The first session is done, but you are welcome to still sign up and join him. The first class is recorded. You can watch it on Facebook, and you can register still for the Zoom link if you'd like to do that. Don't forget that we have clergy spiritual care check-in every Thursday at noon. You can register also for that. Check your e-groups. There's small groups. Next, Shabbat is Together We Rise. We are so excited to just celebrate a little bit, to talk about what it means to be together, to be a congregation. Even though we have been apart, I feel like we have been together. We have lots of surprises and beautiful things for you coming. Lots of, as always, gorgeous music and meaningful experiences. It's also Shabbat Shira, so make sure that you check in for all of that. What else is coming up? Your Power during pandemic and beyond. Ariella Halevi is teaching a series starting February 2nd. So check your e-notes and the website for information about that. And all of this is there. I didn't make any of this up just now, except for some of the jokes. So you can find everything except for the jokes on our Facebook page, in the e-notes, on the website. It's all there. We're happy to have you with us for everything. Did I miss anything, Cantor?
No, it's perfect. Super great. If you've not worked with or studied with Ariella Halevi yet, I would definitely advise you to check it out. She is a wonderful teacher who incorporates Jewish text and also the practices of meditation and yoga and Kabbalistic spiritual connection. And she is a really, just a gift to our community. So I encourage you to sign up. But now we are going to bless Shabbat. So let's get out our Kiddush cups and sing a joyous prayer for Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim
Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shamat kodshecha be'ava u'ratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. And we take out our challah, or gaze at the beautiful challahs on the screen, and we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And so, we conclude this evening with words of love, with words of building, with words of dedication to building this world with love. Olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. I will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, lai.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, God, that while this evening was full of metaphor, that we should be the light, climb the hill, cross the sea, don't break the bone, that in reality, our week, our Shabbat, our lives become filled with reality, not metaphor, that we find and actually make peace, that we build unity, that we work hard, that we make progress. And we ask for your help and your blessing, God. Tatzidenu l'shalom, help our steps, every step be steps of peace. Tadrichenu l'shalom, guide us on paths of peace as we walk forward into this new week, this new future together. Amen. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you tomorrow.